Come in and join me. We are back for another episode of the Raising Boys to Men podcast. We've been keeping these episodes going. I want to thank you for joining me. I want to thank you if you've watched the previous episodes. If not, please go back and listen to them on Spotify, Apple, or watch them on YouTube. Today's episode is something that is near to my heart and something so many of you as co-parents struggle with. In fact, 99.9% of co-parents struggle with this, and 99.9% of the reasons why so many of you are going through stress and drama in your co-parenting relationships is because of this. Today's episode is all about the importance of boundaries. Now, I feel like boundaries is something that I've spoken about so many times, but people still don't quite understand it. So it was so important for me to do another episode on this with a bit more of a deep dive. So I feel like conflict in co-parenting often arises because of a lack of boundaries. And a lack of boundaries is not because you don't care as a co-parent. It's not because you don't care as a parent. Sometimes it can be because of guilt. It can be out of fear. You may be worried about how your co-parent may react to these boundaries. You just want to keep the peace. You know what, if I put this boundary in place, then he or she might not act in a certain way towards our child, and I'm going to feel guilty for that, or they're just going to blame me, or what will other people think? You're living your life based on what someone else may or may not think, or may not do, and we can't have that. We're not going to have that. On the Raising Boys to Men podcast, we are not going to have anyone living their life out of fear of what someone else may or may not do. I feel like this has to be the part of the show where I just reiterate and re-mention the fact that I have aligners in my mouth. Aligners in my mouth. This is the third week now, and I still can't get used to my speech. It's stressing me out. It's stressing. I just want to give you great episodes, but these aligners in my mouth are causing me a lot of paranoia because I just don't feel like I sound like myself. Back to what we was talking about. So, boundaries. Okay, for those of you watching on YouTube, I have my laptop. I'm not ashamed to admit, I like to bring notes to the table. It's a good way for me to really remember what points I'm trying to hit and give you as much information as possible, because I promise you, the same information I give you, whether or not you believe me or not, I know there's a lot of men out there, he's just simping towards women, he's only doing these episodes because he's trying to make all men look bad. All men looking bad doesn't help me in any way, shape or form. It doesn't help me at all. My main goal with this whole platform was to share my truth and for others to not make the same mistakes I made. But more importantly, because I wish when I started my co-parent journey, there was a platform like this around that time, because let me tell you for free, that would have saved me so much stress, so much headaches. That would have just, I don't even know where I would be right now or how the relationship would be with my children's mums if a platform like that was around. But like I was saying, we're here to talk about boundaries and the importance of it. And I feel like many people associate boundaries with rejection or control. As men especially, I feel like when we think about boundaries, it's almost like a restriction. We can't do this. She's trying to tell me I can't do this. And we get defensive. And I feel like I want to start there. Boundaries are not to spite anyone. They shouldn't be anyway. A boundary should not be to spite anyone. It should simply be to protect the space. And if you are trying to keep the peace by not setting boundaries, I want you to remember this point here. There is no peace without boundaries. There is no peace without boundaries. Whatever boundaries that may be, there is no peace without it. Look at in every healthy relationship, there will be boundaries. There will be boundaries between the way they navigate, between how people move, maneuver. Your boundary in a healthy relationship may be, I'm no longer going out to the club with my friends until 1 o'clock in the morning. That's a boundary I'm putting on myself. A boundary may be, I'm no longer going to be speaking to women now that I'm in a relationship. It's a boundary you put on yourself. And why is that boundary there? To protect the relationship. And if you can start looking at boundaries like that, I feel like we've just landed on something, so I'm going to run with this. Boundaries within your co-parenting relationship protects your child, protects your relationship with your child. Just like boundaries in a healthy relationship protect the relationship. I'm no longer speaking to women. I'm no longer speaking to men. I'm no longer behaving in a certain way now that I'm in a relationship. How many people say that? I'm no longer doing this now that I'm in a relationship. Some people stop speaking to friends when they get into a relationship. I know women that no longer speak to some of their male friends because they're now in a relationship and they feel like it would be a bit of a disrespect to that partner. Now, who's to say if it would or not? Depends on what the relationship was like before. But I can respect a boundary like that. Let me talk to you about boundaries. When we get in our car, what's one of the first things we have to put on? A seatbelt. Now, legally, that is a requirement. When you're driving your car, you are expected and required to put on a seatbelt. That isn't because you are going to crash. That is to protect you along that journey. If anything does happen, you're protected. Now, even if some of you are screaming down the TV, the audio, whatever you're listening to, some of you may be thinking, I don't need to set boundaries because me and my co-parent are cool. I don't need to set boundaries because I get along really well with my child's dad, or I don't need to set boundaries because I get along really well with my child's mum. You don't place that seatbelt on you because you're with a bad driver. You could be with a great driver. It doesn't mean you don't put your seatbelt on. Because if you're with a great driver and that seatbelt's on and you crash, you're protected. If you're with a great driver and that seatbelt's not on and something happens, think about the consequences. Boundaries within your co-parenting relationship prevent damage from occurring, protects your relationship between each other potentially and your child. No one kicks up fuss when we think about a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. No one kicks up fuss when we think about putting on a seatbelt. But yet when it comes to emotional boundaries, they're to spite me, they're to prevent me from doing this. You're not kicking up fuss when you're hearing about put your seatbelt on. No one's saying, they're doing this because they want to get to me. How dare they make me wear a seatbelt? No, you accept that it's for your own safety. So I need people to understand that. Boundaries are not there to spite anyone. They're there to protect the relationship with your child. And the problem we often have is, like I said, we fear putting boundaries in place out of what someone else may say or someone else may do. And I just want to remind you of boundaries that you don't even realize you're setting in your own life. Some of you have boundaries when it comes to work. I'm not going to respond to emails after 5 o'clock, or dead on 5 o'clock, I'm switching off. They can't contact me on the weekend. Those are boundaries. Those are boundaries. Some of you have boundaries with friends. We've all got that friend that just drains us. I can't go out with them no more. I'm no longer going out with that friend anymore. Or you know what? I'm just going to message them now and again. I'll just check in. That's a boundary. You haven't had to be told to do those things. Those are boundaries you're putting in place in your daily life. Does that feel selfish? Does that feel wrong? You understand the reason why that boundary is there. One thing I'm very mindful of is the amount of times I'm using the word boundaries within this episode. So, how can I help you even more? There's a big difference between proactive and reactive when it comes to what we're talking about, boundaries. Again, some of you are too slow in putting boundaries in place, and what you do is you allow your circumstance to determine how you now behave. Oh, I'm cool with the way everything is. Then something happens, I better put a boundary in place. That's called a reactive boundary. You wait until a situation occurs and then you react to that situation. Proactive is when you prevent a situation occurring by acting earlier. So it may be you and your co-parent have broken up and you say, you know what? I'm no longer going to be discussing anything other than my child with my co-parent. That boundary is in place from the beginning, you stick to it. I'm no longer going to be allowing them to come over past a certain time or full stop. As a man, let me say this to you. As a man, your own boundary, I wish when it came to me, one of the things I was able to do is understand myself a bit more, to know that, you know what, Aaron, when things aren't going your way, you have a way, you struggle to deal with that, right? You get a bit annoyed, you get a bit irritated, and you can be quite reactional. So now that you're not with the mother of your child, I want you to take a step back, not from your child, but just from this situation. No need to contact her other than when it's to do with your child. No need to chase up on her. No need. You just fall back and focus on your child. That should have been a boundary I put in place on myself. But as men, we don't do that. We don't do that. We still try and I will say it, and I know there'll be people that say, oh no, not all men are like this. Some of us as men struggle to accept when we can no longer have access to what we once did. Be it the house, be it the woman herself. Some of us as men struggle when we can no longer have access to what we once had. And then we can react, we can behave and react out of character. We can do things we regret, and we wait for the woman to put the boundaries in place on us. When from the beginning, we could have put a boundary in place on ourselves to protect us from doing something stupid. But we have to be told what boundaries are because we've got no self-control. Because we still feel we have a right to that woman, to that house, to that information. It's so important when it comes to boundaries that you do not wait for an incident to occur before you put something in place. That's reactional. We want to be proactive. Now I want to share a story with you. It may make me look stupid, but I want to share a story with you. So I remember when me and my child's mum broke up. Now, there was a period of time where I still wanted control. I still wanted to know certain information. I still wanted access to her. And I would message her phone over and over and over. And she wouldn't respond. I would call her phone over and over and over. And she wouldn't respond. I'd be asking questions about her personal life. I'd be having a tantrum. And she just wasn't responding. What I then realized is if I messaged her about our child and it was relevant, she would respond. If I messaged about her, she wouldn't. If I tried to call her, she wouldn't answer. If I messaged and it was to do with our child, she would respond. My child's mum put boundaries in place, but she never announced them because she didn't have to. You do not have to announce your boundaries. Your boundaries do not need to be screamed at the top of your lungs. You just need to act in a way that demonstrates them. You need to be loyal to your own boundaries. The problem we often have is some of you are confused by why your co-parenting relationships aren't quite working out, and you don't realize that you're not being loyal to your own boundaries, but you're expecting someone else to respect them. If you've said, I am no longer discussing certain things when it comes to our child, or I'm no longer putting up with X, but then you allow X to happen and you put up with it, you start discussing the child again. You allow this person to come into the house when you said that they won't be coming into the house anymore. If you create mixed signals with your own boundaries, how can you ever expect someone else to respect them? Let's be real. If I'm aware that you're not respecting your own boundaries, please don't expect me to respect them. However harsh that may sound, if I see that you do not respect your own boundaries, please do not expect me to respect them. I remember growing up, some of you, especially if you live in the UK, I'm sure in America as well, you would have seen signage on walls in certain areas which says, no ball games allowed. I remember it vividly as a kid, no ball games allowed. Now, for a majority of people and a majority of areas, you would often see that no ball games were taking place in those areas. There would be the odd occasion where some people would push past this, but for a majority, people were aware that you are not allowed to play ball games here. So people will go into a different location, maybe go to the park or somewhere else. That signage was a boundary. That signage worked. That signage was consistent because it was always there. Imagine if at some point the council or whoever said, you know what? This signage, I feel like it's worked because no one's playing ball games around here anymore. Let's take it down. Are people going to just naturally stick to that boundary? What's probably going to happen is people are going to then start playing ball games. The signs that your boundaries are working because you and your co-parent are getting along, or because he's finally respecting you, or because he's not doing what he used to do, or she isn't doing what she used to do, that is a sign that your boundaries have worked. It's not a sign for you to take your boundary down. It doesn't mean we don't adjust. It doesn't mean we might not then say, you know what, no ball games allowed between 9 and 5. We might adjust certain things, but what we don't do is just remove the one thing that got us into a safe space. When your boundaries are working and you can clearly see they are working, they are bringing you peace, you are in a much better position, it is not the time to remove them. Because I'm going to be real with you. Some people, men, women, some people will behave in a certain way to sweeten you up in order for you to drop your boundary. It's a big plan, but they'll only be able to do that for a certain period of time. They'll only be able to play that character for a certain period of time. Eventually, they're going to get tired. Eventually, they're going to get fed up and they're going to show you their true colors. If someone really does respect the boundaries that you have put in place, they're not going to make you feel guilty. They're not going to pressurize you to drop them. You're not going to see a change in their behavior. When someone doesn't respect your boundaries, they're constantly trying to get you to change them. They're constantly trying to guilt you out of position. But remember, your boundaries are not to spite anyone. They're to protect you and to protect your child. I really hope these episodes provide you with something. I don't know what that is, but I really hope they provide you with something. I really want you to join me on social media, get involved with the polls that I put on my stories, send any questions you have. If you have a question from this episode, put it in the comments. Let me know. I just want to end it on this. If my child's mum had been inconsistent with her boundaries, I would not be the man you see today. I would not have the co-parent relationships I have today. I would probably not have the relationship I have with my child today. A lot of what you see has been because that woman said enough is enough. She put boundaries in place and she was consistent with them. She wasn't guilted out of position. She didn't allow me to throw a tantrum. She didn't allow me to persuade her. She understood why she put boundaries in place, why she wasn't answering the phone, why she wasn't talking about her personal business. She understood why she went to child maintenance. She understood the reasons for doing all of this and stuck by it. If that woman had not been consistent with her boundaries, I would not be the man I am today, and I would not have the platform, and I would not have the mindset. Her boundaries made me reflect and think about how I was behaving and focus on my child. What my child's mom was able to do was block the pathway between me and her. Therefore, I had to focus on my child. Boundaries are not there to spite people. They're there to protect you and protect the relationship with your child. Join me next week for another episode.